Good morning, everyone. I'm Joaquim Garrabou from Institut de Ciències del Mar in Barcelona, and thank you very much for joining us to the 2022 webinar series, Mediterranean MPAs Facing Climate Change. Today is the first webinar of the second module of the new webinar series organized by the MPA Engage project, devoted to the monitoring protocols to track climate change in the Mediterranean MPAs. Today, we welcome more than 120 registered participants to this webinar that they joined from more than 15 countries from the Mediterranean, but from Europe and elsewhere in the world. This webinar is organized by the MPA Engage project in association with two other projects, the MPA Networks and AMAre Plus projects. All these three projects funded by the Interreg-Med program. The main goal of MPA Engage is to promote the resilience of Mediterranean marine ecosystems faced to climate change by developing a full toolbox for MPA managers. The focus is management and the MPA managers. This toolbox, in fact, is intended to be used across the Mediterranean MPAs and, if it's possible, beyond. Before starting the webinar, some housekeeping. The webinar will be recorded and posted in the YouTube channel, and you can just watch the video just after the webinar. During the presentation, which is going to be about 60 minutes, you will be able to post questions using the chat box in the YouTube channel. And at the end of the webinar, we will dedicate around 30 minutes to answer those questions that you posted in the chat. And the aim of this new webinar, this second module of webinars, is to provide to participants the understanding and the familiarity, or get familiar with the 9 monitoring protocols designed to provide information on climate change impacts. The webinars will illustrate the rationale, the field operations, the data treatment, and the information sharing, the way how this information can support the management. And we will be providing or presenting the monitoring toolkit that we will develop it for these 9 monitoring protocols. Specifically, today, participants will learn how to track shift in species distributions and mass mortality events with the support of local ecological knowledge approaches. Today's webinar, the panelist, the presenter is Ernesto Azzurro, who pioneered in the Mediterranean for the implementation of this approach, this local ecological knowledge approach in the Mediterranean. Good morning, Ernesto, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Keith. Good morning to everybody. I'm happy to start this webinar on our monitoring tools. Well, I'm Ernesto Azzurro. I'm a researcher at the Italian National Research Council, CNR IRBIM, at the moment located in Ancona, in Italy. And I can add that my field of research is basically biodiversity changes in our changing Mediterranean Sea. And I have a particular focus on fish species, on invasive species. But in the last decade, I've been working intensively, also together with Kim, with those Interreg-Med projects, to develop those participatory approaches to monitor climate change impacts in the coastal areas. So, Kim, I think you wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ernesto. So before you start your presentation, and just as a warm up of this webinar series, we have a 2 minutes video just to show the frame and the background of the why we are conducting these monitoring protocols. So please, can you show the video?
Our sea is facing a true planetary emergency. and we are now seeing the consequences of neglect and mismanagement. Fisheries collapse, pollution, invasive species, and climate change. A menace to our present civilization, which is happening now. Mounting climate crisis requires us to think and behave differently, to address conservation problems on large scales, to explore new approaches. When people live in and have an intimate relationship with the natural environment, they can observe any changes during their daily activities, every day, everywhere. Local knowledge matters for environmental monitoring and management. It may provide ecological information on a large scale, thus contributing to conservation, empowering the voices of local communities, improving our capacity to understand and cope with the ongoing changes, whatever the future brings.
Okay, thank you. I think that there has been a little problem with the video then, because I remember that it finished it in another way. But in any case, thanks. Hoping that we provide this frame background for the why we are doing these webinars and what are the problems that we are facing in the Mediterranean. And now I let the floor to Ernesto to explain how to implement these interesting monitoring protocols with the support of the local ecological knowledge.
Yes,
Ernesto, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm here. Many thanks, Kim. Yes, the video actually was ending with a sentence that was explaining that the local ecological knowledge approach has just started to be applied in Mediterranean. So now in this webinar, we will present 3 protocols, 3 possibilities to apply this approach. But this is also interesting. The methodology is very flexible, can be modified and tailored for other kind of large-scale changes that are happening right now in our sea, and we believe that well, there is a role to play for this approach and for the knowledge of local people in general for the Mediterranean research. So I think we can play my presentation, my PowerPoint, and so in this webinar we will explore and illustrate how to access the knowledge of local people to track the effects of climate change. Probably you know that this is not the first time that we deliver this presentation, and this is actually the second series of webinars that we organized with the MPA Engage project. So I gave a similar presentation on LEC at the beginning of the MPA Engage project. So some of the contents will be repeated, but this time we also we added the experience of 7 marine protected areas which that participated and implemented this local ecological knowledge protocols. So let me just start with the facts. This is not nice, but you know that the rising trends in atmospheric CO2 they doesn't show any sign of slowing down. So then we expect for the climate inertia that the global temperature will rise in the next decades, especially in the Mediterranean Sea, which is warming much faster of the global ocean, in which climate change has already generated macroscopic effects. And so we can start by recalling those macroscopic effects, big changes, big things that can be observed. Think, for example, to the mass mortalities of benthic organisms, gorgonians, sponges, sea urchins, and other species. And in some cases, such as in the Eastern Mediterranean, we can also speak and face of local extinctions. There are some interesting papers that have been published in the last few years that are highlighting this local collapse on biodiversity. Other macroscopic events can be, for example, the arrival of thermophilic species and the decline, the collapse of temperate species in a process of transition toward a more thermophilic assemblage. And this is very visible along in coastal ecosystem. And we can also have the outbreak of invasive species. Most of them have tropical origins. Well, all those changes can be easily observed by the people that spend every day, most of their time, in strict contact with the natural environment. And those changes raise emotions, and those changes, those observations are recorded in the memory of people like fishers. And those are the experts that we want to speak with, want to interview. And so this is the first reason that motivate the value of engaging local people in the monitoring process, because local people like fishers, they observe those changes, so they have a sort of memory of the evolution of the natural system. So we can use this knowledge to reconstruct what has happened in the past. The resulting knowledge is often indicated as LEK, local ecological knowledge, the knowledge that local people have about the ecosystem they are familiar with. There is, however, another important reason to use the local ecological knowledge approaches, and this reason is that is the intrinsic value of engaging people in the process of monitoring and adaptation to the ongoing changes. So we will certainly discuss later this the many benefits of this partnership, of this collaboration. Well, certainly for many years, the knowledge of local people was dismissed for being subjective, anecdotal, and of little value. Look, for example, at how the knowledge of fishermen was considered by the biologists of the 19th century. So in many cases, you can read here what this scientist was thinking about this knowledge. So in many cases, the local people, fishers, were treated such as ignorant people with any real ecological knowledge. But so let's see what happened today. Today means starting from Darwin, that realized for the first time how many information could be, how many precious information could be accessed by the local people. So today, well, many things have changes. Environmental problems have become global. This is one first point, and so we need a larger amount of information to track large-scale processes. And more importantly, we need to work at both the ecological and social level. Indeed, local ecological knowledge is a field of research which is a little bit at the interface between human, society, and the environment. Someone could say that we are the problem, so we can be also the solution. So that's why it's important to work together. I like to cite this, what David Attenborough said at the last COP26 climate summit. We are, after all, the greatest problem solvers we have ever existed on Earth. And working together, build bridges among different sectors of society. And this is certainly one of the key messages of the climate crisis, and one important aspect of this kind of approach, also at the local level. But yes, let's go back to the local ecological knowledge. You can see that globally, this is a search that I made on the number of scientific papers that have been published with the name of local ecological knowledge. You can see that globally, this is a really novel and emerging opportunity for ecological monitoring, and something that started to be applied since about the year 2001. And you see that after this, here there is an exponential, a global increase of studies dealing with local ecological knowledge in both terrestrial and marine system. And also in the Mediterranean Sea, this approach has started to be used at the beginning of 2000. A similar trend can be observed for the concept of fishers knowledge that is very, very similar to what we are presenting for local ecological knowledge. And even if for this fishers knowledge, thanks to the work of FAO, this concept started to be employed earlier in the 80s, but it has become more and more widespread in the last decade. Just note that it's important to use the appropriate definitions, and here you can see 3 definitions for what is intended for LEC, for TEC, traditional ecological knowledge, and for FK, fishery knowledge. So I would highlight that the difference from LEC and TEC, and just consider that this is important concept. The LEC rely only on knowledge gained by individuals over their lifetimes, and not on the information that's been handed down through generations. On the contrary, the TEC, the traditional ecological knowledge, is kind of accumulating body of knowledge which is handed down through the generation by cultural transmission. So this is a key difference between the two methods, approaches. And here there are some examples on how the local ecological knowledge has been used so far in the Mediterranean area. You can see that until now, this approach has been mostly centered on investigating or reconstructing the past changes. You can also note that the most of the studies are based on interviews to fishers, but there are also examples involving other stakeholders, such as, for example, aquaculture, the aquaculture stakeholders, and the recreational divers. And I also wanted to add a personal comment because I have been personally involved in several of the surveys all over the Mediterranean, interviewing fishers of several countries, and I have to say that I'm impressed, because what those people reported in the most of the cases was a rapid and dramatical transformation of the ecological system that they experienced and witnessed in their lifetime. So that's why we can consider those people as witnesses of a changing and of a warming sea. Then, to this regard, I just want to invite you, to the people that might be interested to know more, to watch this documentary in 2 episodes that we produced with the last Interact project, and this is now freely available on YouTube. And the video, the documentary, explain how the people are involved, and also it give the space to those people to tell the stories, and the stories of a changing sea. Okay, sorry for this long introduction. So I'm now almost ready to start presenting our local ecological knowledge protocol. And I wanted just to tell you that if you are interested to a more general learning about the general use of an application of LEC, there are some interesting publications to read and study. And like, for example, this monograph of the CS, which is one of the best summaries that contain several theoretical and practical suggestions for this investigating leg. So, okay, so this is what we conceived, applied, and implemented in our MPA Engage project. 3 leg protocols that I will present today. The first 2 protocols, the leg 1 and the leg 2, have been implemented by previous project activities. And the last one is a brand new protocol which has been conceived by the present project, by the MPA Engage project. And we can start from the leg 1, which is the most famous one. So the leg 1 is a methodology that has been initially developed by the Mediterranean Science Commission, CS, and then adapted for the purposes of the Interact project MPA Adapt, with the contribution of the FAO project ADRIMED and MedSubmed. And this is basically an interview protocol that can be adopted to extract information from experienced fishers, but also from other sea users, such as, for example, as divers or recreational fishers. So this protocol is quite effective to reconstruct recent biotic changes undergoing in the Mediterranean area. And the approach is particularly suitable to trace back the changes like the increase of warm-adapted species, the outbreak of exotic species, but also drastic decreases of cold-adapted species, or also endemic species. And this also help to allow and documenting the arrival of new species. The leg 1 is probably one of our most consolidated protocols that's been widely adopted in the Mediterranean region. We built a solid scientific basis behind this protocol, as illustrated by several and increasing number of scientific articles. And the strengthness of this protocol that can be implemented at both the local scale but also at the regional scale by thanks to an existing network of research bodies and institutions that adopted and are implementing this methodology. Okay, so who might be interested to implement this protocol? Well, the requested skills are quite basic. We don't need particularly specializations, and people that implement the protocol should be familiar with species identification. They should have a good knowledge of local fisheries, and that's it. That are the only characteristics of our the basic basis of the collaborating people that collaborate, or MPA that collaborate in implementing this protocol. And the protocol can interest, of course, MPA managers, but also other marine conservation and environmental administration, and of course, scientists, colleagues, researchers, and practitioners. So, okay, we can now jump into the field, and I can give you a kind of practical demonstration on how to implement the protocol. The first important step is to start finding and selecting our experts. And this is a first and important step. To respond, it should be selected among experienced fishers or other sea users, like divers and recreational anglers with more of 10 years of experience, activity in the area. And well, we can assume that you have already good contacts with those people. Otherwise, once you identify good, trustful fishers, you can ask them at the end of interview to present, to help you to recruit other people. This is called a snowball approach, but it's very effective in building this basis of people that you will engage in the implementation of the protocol. And well, you have to consider that fishers could distrust researchers and practitioners, so it will be very important to follow some general rules, and this is part of the methodology. And so we and I always suggest to be very humble, to behave like a facilitator, not an expert, because the expert is the people, the fisher that you are interviewing. And you should show a genuine interest towards what the respondents say, but at the same time, you have to follow the protocol. So it is important to keep the interview on track, because the fishers tend to speak of many things. So you have to be really focused on the question that you are posing. And of course, you will need to critically review all the received information, because you and in the interviewers are the first important filters of the knowledge of fishers, of this knowledge that we are gathering. So let's have a concrete example. So here we have Pino. And well, Pino is a professional fisher, and so you approach Pino. You explain to the fisher the aim of this interview. So Pino agrees talking with you, and so you start posing questions. And Pino, it's mainly operates with set nets and traps. He began fishing in, let's say, 1981. You can see here the printed sheet that we use for the interviews. You see that here we have the timeline, horizontally, and then we have those 6 ranks of abundance, of the perceived abundance of the species. So we can pose to Pino the main question, which is, do you know species that have increased in the last times, or recent species that recently appear in your area? And maybe the fisher can say, oh yes, there is one fish. I never seen this, an example. I never see this fish until about the 2000. This is, for instance, the cornet fish that typically appeared after the 2000 in the many countries of the Mediterranean. Okay, so you write Fistularia conversoni. You identify that the species is Fistularia conversoni. And then Pino say, yes, the species was absent until 2000. I remember when I captured the first cornet fish, and then for a few years the species remained on average like 1 fish a year I was capturing, but then increased rapidly, and now it's very common. So I can draw a horizontal line and assign ranks of abundance, or 0 when the species was absent, 1, and was when occasional, 3 when the species became common. And I will identify the species like an increasing species. So, and this is done. This is how I reconstruct the historical trend for Fistularia. And of course, you can apply the same question for all the increasing species, but also for the drastical decreases. Like, for example, Pino can mention, yes, there was a species that has disappeared in the area. The anguilla, for example, is typical. The fault is not climate change, but this is one of the species that disappear from the most of the country. So many fishers can tell you that there are no more anguilla in the area. And so this is the same. The anguilla was very abundant in the past, 4, and then started to decline, and now is absent, 0. So this species is decreasing. And some tips are that data shouldn't be removed or managed after the interview. It's much better to check or filter the information during the interview. And also another suggestion is to keep for the data only highly trustful interviews, to discard interviews that can raise doubts about the provided information. Another suggestion is to do not wait too much before uploading the data to the Excel file. So everything should be done quite quickly to maintain the knowledge and the feeling of the interview. And okay, so with the MPA Engage project provides all the tools that the sheet were to perform to be printed and to be used to perform the interviews in the field, but also files to upload the data. Here is a screenshot of the Excel file. So lines, the horizontal lines, will be translated in numbers according to the same timelines. And yes, here you can see the structure of the database. This is basically the structure of the Excel file. So starting from the left, we have the info on the respondents, the graphical information, and also the information on the gears, and then we have the trend and information, and here is the chronological trend. So lines translated in numbers. Here is the perceived trends, decreasing, fluctuating, stable of the species. And the last columns are about the maximum day capture. We will also ask the fishermen about the maximum day capture, the day in which they capture the maximum number or quantity of the species that they are citing. And this is also a very simple but important information, can be used as an indicator of to follow temporal changes of those species. So how to use the data? And you now collected all those historical reconstruction for many different species, and through the help of many different fishers. So at the end of the survey, you can assemble the data for all. You can assemble all the data, and for example, obtain reconstruction of the historical trends of each species. And this can be done for example, for thermophilic species that have expanded northwards their distribution, but also for other species that have declined in abundance or disappeared. See, for example, what we have done times ago for one species, the Calinectes sapidus in Montenegro. You see here we have the timeline, and on the vertical axis we have the abundance ranks, and each line corresponds to the reconstruction which has been provided by each single fisher. No? So putting all the lines together, you have a clear reconstruction of the chronology of these invasions. And the same data, the same series, can be also illustrated through the heat maps. And in the past, we've been delivering a training session on how to perform simple elaboration using Excel and also R for the basic analysis on local ecological knowledge data. So there are possibilities to provide heat maps with Excel, and use R for the breakpoint analysis. The breakpoint analysis will tell you exactly the point at which the species has changed significantly its abundance in along the temporal timeline. And I have also to add that, well, of course, those elaborations can be done independently by each researcher that wants to adopt those methods, those approaches. But with the MPA Engage project, we developed an even simpler tool which automatically provides you the set of analysis to use your local ecological knowledge data. Here is, for instance, some of the results that we received from the Zakynthos MPA, and I just pick up the example of two species. Salpa on the left, you know that Salpa is a temperate species which is declining and which has already declined from many Eastern Mediterranean countries. And on the right you have the rabbitfish, the dusky rabbitfish, which is an herbivore as well of the Salpa, but with a tropical affinity. This is a tropical invader which has drastically increased in the area of Zakynthos. So here you can see two perfect examples of a winner, the Siganus luridus, the rabbitfish. You can see here from the heat maps that this species was not present before and then increased up to levels of dominance. And in the same place, in the same marine protected areas, the native species, which is suffering the effects of an habitat, an ecosystem which is becoming warmer, but also is suffering the competition with Siganese, is declining quite rapidly. So the winner and the loser. Okay, so I think I finished with this with the first protocol. We can play to recap what the methodology. This video of 5 minutes, and I will maybe ask him how much time we have left to complete the other two protocols before playing the video.
We have around 25 minutes. So
25 minutes. Okay, so I think we are in time, and okay, so we can play the video, and
thanks.
Yeah.
Sappiamo che il riscaldamento globale sta modificando rapidamente l'abbondanza e la distribuzione di molte delle specie marine. La collaborazione con le comunità locali offre nuove possibilità per ampliare la nostra comprensione dei fenomeni naturali. In questo tutorial illustreremo come realizzare interviste a pescatori e a subacquei per la ricostruzione dei trend storici e per la segnalazione dei nuovi arrivi. I materiali saranno una guida sulle specie marine, copie del questionario e infine un computer dove immettere i dati. Le interviste possono essere realizzate da tecnici e da ricercatori con una buona conoscenza delle risorse naturali e soprattutto del mondo della pesca. Le interviste potranno essere realizzate in qualsiasi momento dell'anno con pescatori artigianali, pescatori sportivi, con subacquei, almeno con 10 anni di esperienza. Consigliamo un minimo di 20 interviste per location. Per evitare fraintendimenti spiegate subito l'obiettivo dello studio. Meglio scegliere un momento opportuno per presentarsi ai pescatori, ad esempio mentre sono a terra per il maltempo o puliscono le loro reti o riparano le loro barche. Da quando hai iniziato a pescare?
Dal 75.
Mimmo pesca dal 1975, quindi tracciate una linea verticale in corrispondenza di questa data. Gli attrezzi da pesca da lui utilizzati sono due, in questo caso palangari e reti da posta. Dopo aver rotto il ghiaccio, la vostra prima domanda sarà: conosci specie che sono aumentate negli ultimi anni? Che adesso c'è. Stai pescando specie che prima non c'erano?
Chiama tipo quello, pesce più quello lungo, una guglia, sembra.
Mimmo dice di sì, c'è qualcosa di nuovo. La prima specie di cui parla è il pesce flauto, la fistularia commersoni. Verifichiamo che sia proprio questa specie guardando la guida. A questo punto ci facciamo dire quando ha avvistato o pescato la specie per la prima volta.
Questo è nuovo, questo è nuovo, una quindicina di anni.
E prima non c'era.
Non c'era prima, no.
Mimmo ci dice che questa specie non si era mai vista nella sua area di pesca fino al 2005. Tracciamo quindi il valore di abbondanza 0 fino al 2005. Dal 2005 la specie compare occasionalmente nelle catture e Mimmo aggiunge che negli ultimi 4 anni la specie viene pescata regolarmente. Secondo la percezione di Mimmo e secondo il trend registrato possiamo quindi indicare questa specie come fluttuante. Anche questo qua, no?
Sì, è quello, sì. Questo è più quello della spina.
Un altro pesce di cui ci parla Mimmo è il pesce coniglio, il Siganus luridus. Verifichiamo che la specie sia proprio lei. Mimmo non aveva mai catturato questa specie fino al 2010. E dal 2010 in poi la specie compare in forma occasionale per poi aumentare in abbondanza negli ultimi 4 anni. Secondo Mimmo la specie sta aumentando in abbondanza. Indichiamo quindi questa specie con la lettera I, increase. Ovviamente il nostro interesse non è limitato alle specie tropicali o alle specie che prima non c'erano, ci interessano anche le specie che stanno aumentando di abbondanza e questo potrebbe riguardare anche le specie native del Mediterraneo, come ad esempio il pesce pappagallo, il pesce serra e altre specie che saranno menzionate in maniera spontanea dai pescatori. Una volta che il pescatore ha elencato tutte le specie in aumento, tutte le specie che sono comparse e prima non c'erano, solo allora possiamo chiedere al pescatore se è al corrente di specie che si pescavano una volta ma che sono completamente sparite. Questo è il caso dell'anguilla, che secondo Mimmo è stata pescata per tutti gli anni 80 per poi scomparire improvvisamente dall'inizio degli anni 90. Indichiamo quindi questa specie come in decremento. Una volta terminata l'intervista, se potete non fate passare troppo tempo, ma inserite appena possibile i dati nel file Excel come illustrato nel protocollo. Volendo, al termine dell'intervista potete chiedere al pescatore di presentarvi a un altro pescatore disponibile. Sarà importante durante la conversazione mantenere l'argomento sull'obiettivo specifico. Non dimentichiamoci però di ascoltare i pescatori con grande interesse e rispetto, soprattutto per le loro conoscenze.
Okay. Okay, many thanks. We can go back to the presentation, to the PowerPoint. And okay, so we have seen that with this approach, we can work on increasing and decreasing pitches, on losers and winners, and trace back what happened in the past. So the leg 2 protocol is in the leg 1 protocol worst is intended to be applied only once to reconstruct, to trace back what happened in the past. But we can now jump to the leg 2 protocol, and the leg 2 protocol is for many aspects similar to the leg 1, but in this case, this protocol is aimed to monitor the same changes of abundance on distributions, but is intended for periodical monitoring. So we don't need to reconstruct historical trends. This has been already done with the leg 1, but in this case, we ask for some simple indicators once every year. So it's intended for periodical monitoring. Another difference with the leg 1 protocol is that with the leg 2, we do have target species. A number of target species, which will be always the same for the Mediterranean area. And okay, so the monitoring structures, the monitoring plan start from the identification of a number of permanent expert fishers. So ideally, the same experts and trustful fishers should be questioned every year, each year, in a sort of regular appointment between those people, those experts, and your MPA or your institution if you are researchers. This is kind of to build a longitudinal time series. And okay, to explain the protocol, we can have a look at our interview sheet. So I want to bring your attention first on the species that we have. So first, we have a group of Mediterranean target species. Those are the species that will be always the same for all the Mediterranean area. And this is very important to make it possible to have a large-scale comparison between among different places and countries. And then we have local targets. So you, as marine protected areas or as researchers interested to apply this this protocol, you can add the species that you think are important for local monitoring needs of your species. And then you have space for the fishers target, the species that, according to the experience of the fishers, have underwent the drastic changes in terms of increasing or decreasing. So those species will be mentioned spontaneously by the fishers, and this is very important. And other fields of cancers or questions, they concern the perceived abundance always in rank, the best they catch, and also perception on the importance of the impacts of the species for the fishery and for the environment. So yes, so this tool can support monitoring the transformation of fishery resources, for example, but also it's a way to track the change in perception that can be one indicator to understand the social aspects related to the vulnerability of the socio-ecological systems and the possible, and to explore possible management measures, because remember that the perception of people can change along with the environmental transformation, and this can be very important for supporting, this knowledge can be very important for supporting adaptive management action. For example, some invasive species can be considered a pest at the beginning. This happened, for example, with the Portunus senis in Tunisia. This is an example. But after a while, after maybe our management action, the same species can turn into an exploitable resource along with the adaptation of fishing and market habits. So with this protocol, we can follow and monitor this transformation and also the outcomes of management measures like market promotion or changes in fishing gear. Data are quite simple to elaborate, so will not provide example of that elaboration, but I can just jump to the last protocol, the Leg 3 protocol. The Leg 3 protocol is about investigating and mass mortalities. Everybody know that mass mortality is an increasing important phenomenon in the Mediterranean area, but also a microscopical thing that can be observed by many people. Well, this protocol can support, can help us to collect this kind of data for species that can have problem for many reasons, not only for the rising temperature, but also for the spread of pathogens, or for the combined effects among what is doing the climate change, what are doing pathogens. So there are basically no target species. There are no target species since all the reported mass mortalities are our focus, but of course it's important to know what is going on. So a special attention will be given on those species that are already suffering mortalities, such as groupers are suffering mortalities, marine hills are suffering mortalities, gorgonias, vertebrate, sea urchins, especially in the eastern Mediterranean areas. Of course, the noble pen shells, oysters. There are a lot of species that can undergo this kind of problems. The interview protocol is very simple. And in this case, this is the sheet that we have to print and to use to perform the interview. So as usual, we have a first block of information which is related to the anographical data about the respondents. And then we have two blocks of questions. The first one is related to retrieve data on the kind of extension of mass mortality. And in the second block, we will ask about the perception of fissures. And again, data can be uploaded to a standard Excel file, and that's it. This protocol is very simple and well, can be used to as a complementary tool to collect what we can collect about those phenomena. Okay, let me conclude recalling that those protocol, as well as the other, they've been implemented by several marine protected areas, and now with this MPA Engage project, they have been implemented by 7 more marine protected areas which participated to the study. And of course, the experience of those protected areas together with the toolbox is now available at the disposal of other MPAs and other colleagues and institutions that are interested to use this kind of approach. And yes, this is the results of the implementation of the 3 LEC protocols with our 7 marine protected areas. And this is, well, a very synthetic summary of the SWOT analysis, so the feedback that we received from the MPAs implementing all the protocols, and including the LEC protocols. And the information that resulting from those protocols can be used in combination with the information that we are receiving from the other protocols, and this will let MPAs to have a complete toolbox to monitor climate change effects in their area. So think that all the LEC protocols are freely available, so you can download it from our website. And in some cases, you have also video tutorials and other training tools. And remember that, as usually, those protocols can be used at both the local scale for the local purposes of your MPA. But the same protocols can be also allow you to, well, share your information with the larger community, with advantage of being involved in a large network of research, and also with all the collaborative outcomes that will be generated by these collaborative efforts. And well, I think this a nice example of cooperation across countries, across national borders, and also that can be used for overcome the different socioeconomical settings and that characterize our Mediterranean countries in this period of trouble for our Mediterranean region. And that's it. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any question, I think that this is we have now time to have questions. I think that we can project the last video if you want before opening the floor to the question. Yeah.
عندك هيك عام وقتاش ظهر
حتى التو ما زلت ما نقولوا احنا من 2012 حتى 2000 خاطر
One or two pieces sometimes.
sometimes maximum اللي شديته حارتين معناتها 8 كعبات
مازالش ديما في الشباب باش
قارنة معنا مش قداش دي.
عندنا قرابة 97 جمله.
and one location can be representative of this homogeneous.
برشا حاجة كيما المناني وكيما الدندي.
ما قلقكش سينو مش مشكل نعمل شنطة مقعد. راهو نحضر 2009.
يعني فأكثر كمية أحسن كمية متاع 5 كيلو.
هو كالينو دي تبانكا كالينو دي banca ismo la doppia va cubo.
Questo tipo di pesce una volta
10-15 years. Il primo pesce sera l'ho preso nel 2001. Dopo che un paio di uscite non riuscivo a capire.
C'è di sì, c'è qualcosa di nuovo. La prima...
Okay, thank you very much, Ernesto. And this last video was a kind of summarizing some of the aspects that you presented in these nice presentations that you gave us, and it let you take your breath because you have been speaking for more than 1 hour. So thank you very much for the effort. And thank you for the audience, because we have now is the time that we say at the beginning that we will be answering your questions, and we have some of them. So we have one question by SP Dufol, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, which it says, do you think would you be able to implement the LEC1 protocol when monitoring Asteroides calicularis? I think that somehow you have already answered this question, but I think that it's good to provide some more issues, more information about this. So
yeah,
not only, yeah. Oh.
Yes, of course. Well, Asteroides is a species that is suffering mass mortalities all over in different places of the Mediterranean. So for sure, this is one species to be closely monitored. And so in this case, if when we have to explore if we can apply the LEC1 protocol to these species, the only thing that we can do is to go to the people that we can consider as experts to understand if we can collect historical data from their memory. So in this case, the expert will not be, I think, the fishers, because the fisher then they don't put attention to the asteroids. So probably we should target divers, and so we can speak with divers to understand if they recall what happened with the asteroids. So maybe some divers, they could tell you, yes, we used to have huge quantities of asteroids until 10 years ago, but now there are just few colonies there and there. So in this case, you already got the reply. In this case, this is exactly the information that we want to translate in numbers. So in this case, you can go to our LEC1 protocol and adapt it to the special case of asteroids. For example, you could be just interested to reconstruct the histories of asteroids. This is a very powerful way to do that. So yes, but first we have to understand if this is possible with these preliminary trials with the experts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are other two questions related made by as well by SP Dufol and Crispy. I don't know which is the right name, but they are asking similar questions about if these local ecological knowledge approaches or protocols can be implemented or can be performed with the support of recreational divers, as you just mentioned, or recreational fishers. And maybe it could be good to comment on your experience on this with these groups of people working with this kind of approaches.
Well, it's a matter of stakeholders. The key of this protocol it's that this approach is very different. It's very different from what we call what we define as citizen science, because in this case we do not involve people, and we don't have to explain to people what to do. We pick up the expert of the sea. So if recreational fishers, they can have an intense and continuous relationship with the natural environment. So in many cases, recreational fishers can be experts of a particular environment, of the coastal environment, for example. So for sure, they can be engaged as experts in the lake protocol. Recreational divers, as far as I know, the recreational diving world, in many cases, recreational divers, they're a bit more the tourists, so they like travel in many different places to visit the different seas. And in this case, they are not really appropriate, because we need resident people that know the local environment. But again, the principles are simple, are easy. So if local people can be considered expert of that particular subject that you are interested to, you can explore the knowledge and eventually use those people for the Lake One protocol.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for the recreational diving as well, there are people that the diving centers, the people that manage the diving centers, that they can maybe we cannot go to ask the recreational divers that go there to make some dives, but the people that are running the diving centers, I think that they are really experts as well from their area. So it's people that we can.
Yes, for sure. Well, they can be really expert, because they used to go more or less in the same places many times every year. And in some cases, there are people that take also notes on the things. So yes, they're powerful eyes for the underwater life. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. I have to apologize because there's Crisp. In fact, is Clive Crisp. So sorry, Clive, and welcome welcome to the webinar. And it seems that you have another country that is going to join the network of LEC, because we have a comment by Mimosa Kovani that says that Albania, it seems that it's missing in the collaboration network, and she's offering herself to participate in this effort. So thank you, Mimosa, for this.
Great.
And then we have another comment by Petar Krusic from Croatia, which is informing us that Asteroides calicularis, in fact, is gone in some of the MPAs. Probably this is already published or not, but it's something that we can gather in this effort, and we can document in this effort, and knowing what is going to see. We have another comment by Tatiana Geloso, which is, I agree with Ernesto, recreational divers usually are travelers and need education and training on techniques. Rather, it is spot local divers diving in the same place many times. These are the ones that we should be encouraging to participate in these efforts. And in fact, that adds just now that probably the underwater photographers, the people that loves to do photographs, they are really people that goes to some, they know and they track different species, and they can provide this nice information. We have in the Mediterranean, we have a world community, rich community of photographers, underwater photographers, and that can provide this important information that we can take advantage of. Yes.
Yes, I took also the opportunity of the question, of the comment of Tatiana. Hi, Tatiana. Tatiana has been one of the first owners of diving clubs that started to collaborate with us, and her experience demonstrate how powerful can be the collaboration between researchers, MPAs, and local divers. And Tatiana used to has 2 divings in 2 different marine protected areas, and thanks to this collaboration, we got a lot of information on those 2 MPAs. But also, once you start and once you care about the collaboration with people, basically with fishers, with owners of diving club, you create something that remain even after the end of a European project, even after the end of a specific research. This kind of collaboration can grow and can grow up to become a network of people that exchange information with a systematic way. Now we have a structure and a precise approach, a common approach to exchange information, to get information on what is going on all over the Mediterranean. That's the power of this collaboration. That's the power of building bridges among different stakeholders, and this is the power of, if I can say, of our protocols that we are implementing in the area. So
yeah, I think that this is our philosophy, and I think all over these 3 webinars that we will be conducting this week, this is a common background, right? Trying to have this exchange of information across the Mediterranean to get this general picture on what is going on and in an harmonized way. So I think it is something that important to underline. I mean, we have been working a lot in this sense to provide the tools that facilitate implementation as we see today for the local ecological knowledge approaches across the Mediterranean, to have this general view on what is the level of changes or the shift or the consequences of the environmental crisis that we are immersed on. I don't see any more questions or comments, but of course you are free to contact Ernesto or any of us to solve any other issues that you have. You have the complete, as Ernesto say, a complete toolkit available in the website of the project. So if you want to explore this and start to implement these protocols, you are more than welcome. And if you have any trouble, you will have as well the reference to contact us there. I don't know, Ernesto, before closing, if you want to add some kind of closing remark or comment.
Well, I always want to thank the people which are collaborating, which are to this network, starting from the expert, the local people, the fishers, and the divers. Tatiana is with us, and so this is my final remark. The beauty of working not only at the ecological levels, as we used to do before, but I think now we have to work at both the levels, at the ecological, but also at the social level, because if we can find some solutions or something to do to mitigate the problems, and to work for a better future. Basically, we have to collaborate. We collaborate with among us.
Yeah,
build bridges.
we need to enhance collaboration at many levels, for many reasons. So let's just start for what we know to do the best. But of course, this is something that we can engage at different levels. That we really need this, especially in these times. So. Hoping that the webinar was of your interest, and we hope that to meet you again, because tomorrow we have this the second of these 3 webinars dedicated to the monitoring protocols. And tomorrow we will be dealing with 3 more protocols related with how we can track temperature changes in the Mediterranean, how to track mass mortalities. Today we saw how we can get back what happened in the past with local ecological knowledge, but tomorrow we will be showing how we can, in fact, track the changes that are happening now in the field, as well how the fishes using visual sensors, we can track the changes as well in the rocky areas of the Mediterranean. So hopefully we will meet you tomorrow. And the time is exactly the same one, from 10 to 12, and the structure is more or less the same one. 1 hour presentation, and then opening the questions, and then you will have as well. If you cannot attend, you can go afterwards to the YouTube channel and check for the recording. So thank you all, and hopefully meet you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.